what is it like? What's the sense of memory? What's the sense of experiencing the subway at rush hour, being bumped around, and having moments of calm? Oh, there it is. I had a conversation with Eric Fischel, who I love to death. The guy is one of my heroes of all time, and a brilliant man. And he was in my studio one day, and we were talking about my work, and we were talking about these martial art paintings I was making, and we were talking about looking for calm in the chaos. And I was like, that's it. That's my thesis. That's it. Searching for calm in the chaos. That's my life. That's what I've been trying to do my whole life. It's a metaphor for my mind. It's a metaphor for my experience in New York. It's a metaphor for my work, my battling through a painting, trying to find these moments of calm and this chaos of a process. So then I started really going for that. And I was pushing it and making a lot of really messy paintings and pushing it out there. Losing the form completely, going into the idea of what's the visceral feeling of bashing yourself through the subway and coming upon some guy who's like rushing toward, what's the feeling? And I started to lose my intention for making something look perfect in a classical way. But still loving that tradition, still loving making stuff look good. I want my stuff to look like how I see it. But more importantly at this stage, I was wanting to make stuff look like how I felt it. And so then I was playing with it. And this is about as far as I got, as far as like totally losing the form. This was a kid running through the street during Chinatown, New Year's in Chinatown, Chinese New Year's, confetti everywhere. And it's like, what's the feeling? Where's the form losing itself? Where is it finding itself? Robert Henright, we talked about, I recommended the Art Spirit to her, and she said that you recommended it, and I said, yes. We're on the same. Everybody here should read the Art Spirit. Henright talks about the ground and the figure. They're not different. They're not separated. The ground and the figure are the same. The energy and the space around the figure intersect, and they all connect and move through. And I studied Qigong and things like energy work, and I look at the idea of energy and energy interconnecting everything. And so I started thinking about how can I paint that energy, but still not make it like an abstract expressionist thing. I still want to have some realism. So this is these are small. These are all relatively small. These are all like that size, like 16 by 20, 8 by 10, that kind of stuff. And then I did this, which was bigger than life size, and it was the Pretzel Girl. And this was like, how quickly can I experience this thing with the tools that I have? So I was using giant, like foot and a half long, gigantic squeegees and huge house painting brushes. And I mean, my studio was a total mess. I was throwing paint all over the place. I was working with just walnut oil, so it was low toxicity, but it was like everywhere. And it was a lot of fun. But then I started to feel like, okay, I need to pull it back in. I gotta pull it back into some sense of realism. So then I started working on wood panels. And this is about the same size as that little one down there, same size. So I started thinking about, well, what's the feeling of New York in the winter? It's cold and everything is blue. Everything is blue because everything is steel and everything is glass, and you're surrounded by water, and there's windows reflecting blue sky and blue water, or no light in the sky, and it's just blue and gray. So I got into this thing where everything was blue and gray. I started using blues and grays, painting through the winter in New York. That one's there, over there. And that was a study for this one. So then I was trying to get that sense, again, trying to find the balance between my love for realism and my love for actual form, and my love for just having a blast with the paint and being totally free. And not just that, but like the physicalities. I mean, when you're able to move physically, do it. And why not put that into your work? Take advantage of your physicality. I love it. It's like a dance room. It's like sword fighting when I paint. It's awesome. And it's very physical. I'm sweating, and it's like, And then, sometimes you make total failures, but like failures don't really mean anything. They're just more room for growth, opportunities to learn. That's a detail. This is all on wood, so I was working with two colors, just a cool black and I think it was ultramarine, and sometimes I substituted some cobalt blue. But regardless, it was very immediate. It's like working with ink. So I'm working on a piece of wood that I would varnish, or actually polyurethane, And sometimes I would just use like a golden amber and then work right on top of that. And you get this immediacy, but it dries and it's like you don't mess with it. So it's like ink. Okay, so quickly I'm going to blast through. This is how I started to become more attuned with the process of losing and finding. And that's really important for me in my process right now. Because anyone can take a picture and project it on the wall and trace it out and color it in, and that's great. And you know, you're a master, good for you. That's great, nothing against that. I've done it, it's boring to me, I feel like I'm cutting my legs off at my hips, you know what I mean? It's an awful experience for me. But I know a lot of professional artists who do it and they make a lot of money, it's great. So, but to me the process of like, make it and then lose it and have the guts to just destroy something you made and then try to get it back and not fall like totally in love with some little moment. Although you do anyways, you end up falling in love with stuff. So anyways, here's a quick, these are small. This is a study for a detail for a larger painting of a bunch of Hare Krishnas in New York. So this is one of my process, this is how my process goes. So I'd start quick, boom, 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 and then I get to this and I'm like, okay, now I have to study the characters. So these were becoming character studies for these people in the scene. Start off, and this is not that process. This was going back to my classical training of like, I'm gonna paint a figure and then color it in. But you know, I was loosening it up a little bit in my mind, but it wasn't really fully, you know, so this is sort of the process. And this was just a spare piece of linen I just did. I was like, I'm gonna do 10, 8, whatever studies, as many as I could fit on this piece of canvas or linen. And I had photographs. And it's a close-up of the brushwork. It's pretty loose, it's just really thick. It's all alla prima. I did this all in one night. So I do all the paintings in one night, just bang it out. It's all wet and wet. And so that was that. So these were studies for, then I started doing more studies for the central character. And so this is how I started this, like, okay, loose, and then where's the form inside that, and then losing the form, and then finding the form, and then clarifying certain things, that's the detail. Really brushy, really direct. You know, I don't go back and second guess certain things, then losing and finding and losing and finding. That, and then I was like, okay, well, I have to go looser. So then what's the gesture? And what's the feeling? And so introducing the blue ground and then flesh on top of that. This is this little sketch here to give you an idea of how that formed. Just working small, and then, sorry I'm a little fast, but I want to get through this before 9 o'clock. And this is how I started, and this is the big one. So these are all studies, and this is the big one. The big is not, it's all relative, but I think it's like 8 by 10 feet. And I was going to bring it tonight because it's rolled up in my studio in Salem, but it's big and it's a hassle to move around. It's like 8 by 10 feet, and so this is how it started. This was fun. But I was trying to find the movement, right? Like what's the interaction? Where are the two main figures and what's the essence of this thing? So then pulling things out of the background, pulling form out, using rags and squeegees and stuff, and yeah, no, it's too mischievous looking, and then I have to change movement. What's the motion? What's the energy? This is the opposite wall. These are all the studies I did for these characters, so they were always around me and informing my process. This is the opposite wall, so these were, you know, in my little tiny studio at the Academy. And then I got to that point I needed something else, so I stuck another figure in there. And then I started clarifying her, and then I added color. I started putting color in, and just clarifying certain things, like the form and the structure. And I got it to that point, and then Eric and I talked about it, and Eric gave me some really great advice on this piece. And this was partly where, that's Eric. He's a god of painting. But he's a brilliant guy. He's a really good guy. If you don't like his work, it's very challenging, but you should check him out. So then I started doing stuff like this, which was more direct, and I wasn't painting with this blue underpainting, I was just going for it. These are also big paintings. This one's here, and and I was still trying to find that technical narrative. And this actually was one of my thesis pieces, which was calm in the chaos. So in all these pieces, there's a moment of calm. I think I'm losing battery here. Maybe this is the signal. I've talked too much. I've talked the microphone to death. That happens. So that's that one. That's a detail. That's the other one. And then this is some of the stuff I started doing when I moved to Oregon a year and a half ago, right out of grad school. And I was like, well, what do I do now?